Hi guys, my name is Chloe, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book Freakout tag. So I'm just going to squeeze this tag in because we are just passing the halfway mark on the year now, but I've been watching a few different people do this tag and it seems like a lot of fun, so I wanted to give it a go myself. So the first prompt is the best book you've read so far in 2022. And this one did surprise me. I think the best book I've read so far is Gideon the Ninth by Tasmin Moore. Still don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. But yeah, anyway, this one is a sci-fi fantasy and I was just so surprised because I thought I was going to dislike this one because I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and if they're too sci-fi-y, I don't know if that's a thing, if you know what I mean. If it's too many aliens, too many planets and stuff like that, I can lose interest, but this one definitely lent more on the fantasy side of things, and I definitely say it's a fantasy book set in space, because in this one we are following Gideon as she accompanies Nona on this tournament so that she can become a more powerful necromancer, and that was really fun. Yeah, she is not afraid to speak her mind when Nona lets her, and yeah, this book definitely parallels not Game of Thrones, Throne of Glass for me, just in the competition setting, and Gideon kind of reminds me of Selena in places. So yeah, so far I think this is the best book that I've read. The next prompt is the best sequel you've read so far in 2022, and for this one I'm going for Skullduggery Pleasant Dead or Alive by Derek Landy, and this one is book 14 in the Skullduggery Pleasant series and is the second to last in the series overall. I'm going with this one just because the ending really shocked me. It really threw me off and I was just not expecting it and I didn't know how to handle it, so that's why I'm going with this book. And yeah, I've talked about Skullduggery Pleasant quite a lot before, but yeah, it's awesome, it's funny, definitely pick it up if you're into urban fantasy. The next prompt is a release that you haven't read yet but want to. For this I have a few answers. I really want to read Glow by Raven Kennedy, which is book 4 in the Plated Prisoner series, and also The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is book 4 in the From Blood and Ash series. But for these I would definitely have to reread the first 3 books because it's been a while and so much happens, so that's why I haven't got to those ones yet. And my other answer for this one, which is kind of like my main answer, is going to be Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. She's the author that wrote The Love Hypothesis, which is probably my favourite contemporary romance. I loved it, loved the science STEM setting because that's what I'm a part of, so that was great. And this one isn't a sequel or anything, it's part of a trilogy, but they're kind of like shorter novellas following other different girls in the STEM areas, and I do want to check it out, I just haven't got around to it yet. The fourth prompt is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I was gutted with this one. I was really excited for Silverborn by Jessica Townsend, which is book 4, I think, in the Nevermore series, which is probably my current favourite middle grade series. I love it, it's magical. It was supposed to come out in October, and since I actually wrote it down as my answer, it has been postponed until 2023 October, so won't be reading that one this year. So yeah, I don't really have a main answer. I've got a couple here that I'm excited for and want to read, just not quite as much as I was for Silverborn. And this is Cursed by Marissa Meyer, the sequel to Gilded, which I read earlier this year, I think, and really enjoyed. And then Nona the Ninth, which is the third book in the Locked Tomb trilogy, which is the series that started with Gideon the Ninth. Prompt 5 is your biggest disappointment. For this one I've got 2 answers. So the first one for me was Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. And this one was a disappointment for me based on other people's opinions of this book. They were so high and great, and I just didn't have a good time with this book. As you know, if you caught my wrap up when I read this book. So yeah, very disappointed by that. I did binge watch the show though. The show is so much better. I think I will enjoy the book more on a reread. I just don't want to because the first time just completely put me off. I think I still will unhaul this book, especially since mine is just a really old secondhand copy, and if I wanted to read it again I will probably pick up the ebook. And the second book was a disappointment based on, well, it's a sequel and I loved the first book, was really excited for this one, and this one just was a bit meh. And this was the Bone Shard Emperor, which I really loved. The Bone Shard Daughter, completely forgotten the author, I will have to insert it somewhere on the screen. But yeah, I loved the first book so much, just how the Emperor has this bone magic and he harvests bone shards from his population to make these constructs, and that's how he runs his kingdom. And then we were following the daughter who didn't know anything about this magic, and with learning more as she does, and other POVs around the world, people trying to rebel against the Emperor, another smuggler, completely forgotten his name as well, but he had the cutest little animal called Neffy, and they were just travelling around, really fun to see. And then we got to the Bone Shard Emperor, which is book 2, and it just didn't really get better. It kind of just fell a bit flat. It was quite long and not too much happened. There was some kind of battle, but honestly it's not very memorable, and I really hope it picks up again in book. So prompt 6 is the biggest surprise, and this is one that I've already had on this list. This is Gideon the Ninth. Again, probably why it's my favourite book so far is just because how much it surprised me, how much I just either didn't think I was going to enjoy it or just feel like it was a, yeah, this is okay, but actually I really loved this one. Prompt 7 is favourite new author, or and for this one I will be going with Tasmin Moore, the author of the Locked Tomb trilogy, just because I'm loving it. Honourable mention to Soman Chanani, the author for the School for Good and Evil series, because I'm 2 books in and so far I'm enjoying it. I just want to see how the series play out before I name him as one of my favourite authors. Prompt 8 is newest fictional crush. I don't really have a big one so far this year, but if I had to choose someone, I would probably go with Julian Strand from The Impossible Julian Strand by Catherine Ann Kingsley. He's a ghost, he's always up to mischief, is dark in places, and just probably one of the most interesting characters I've encountered. And yeah, if you've seen him on the covers, he's pretty hot. Prompt 9 is newest favourite character. This one was really hard. Nearly went to Gideon from Gideon the Ninth. Just, they're great, I really love her. But I will actually go for, just to mix it up a bit, I will go for Agatha from the School for Good and Evil. Like I said, I've been enjoying this series so far, and Agatha is this character here. And when they're whisked away to the School for Good and Evil with her best friend Sophie, Agatha ends up at the School for Good, which was really unexpected for the both of them. And I just loved seeing her at this school, trying to fit in with all these makeup lessons and how to be a princess, and how much she hated it, and she was just so sarcastic and just like so fed up at the same time. It was brilliant. She kind of reminded me in places of Elphaba from Wicked, which is another reason why I'm enjoying this series. I'm seeing parallels, especially with Sophie and Agatha. Well, loose parallels, especially in the first book. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, her character did drop a bit in book 2, so hopefully that will pick up again in the 3rd book. Book 10 is a book that made you cry, and I don't often cry at books. I often get really sad and be like, oh no. But this one genuinely made me cry. Not lots, but there were definitely tears, and this was Jane Seymour, The Haunted Queen by Alison Weir. This is the 3rd book in the 6 Tudor Queen series, and this one was just heartbreaking, even more so than the first 2 books. I think because in the first two books we follow Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn, and they're quite headstrong and stuff, but we get to Jane and she's not royalty or anything. She's quite humble and comes from a small family. So seeing her fall in love with the king and then just the tragedy at the end, it was just all the more heartbreaking than it was in the previous book. So book 11 is a book that made you happy, and for this one I am going with Until the End by Derek Landy, which is the 15th and final book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. This didn't end how I was expecting it to, and because of that it just made me very, very happy, as well as all the usual happy moments I get with reading Skullduggery Pleasant, because the humour in this is just awesome. I love the characters, so picking up any one of these makes me happy, but especially happy with how this one ended. Prompt 12 is the most beautiful book you've hauled so far this year, and for me this was kind of tricky because I am subscribed to Fairy Loot, so I get a lot of beautiful editions from them. So all of those are gorgeous, but this one actually isn't a Fairy Loot pick, and this is Gallant by V. Schwab. This one particularly stands out for me because it isn't a special edition as such. This is the standard UK cover and it's just gorgeous. I love the roses, the rundown castle, and then the reverse of it there. That is absolutely stunning. Kind of reminds me of like a more gothic version of Beauty and the Beast, which I love. This is the Waterstones exclusive, so it does have the sprayed edges where we've got the house and the flower print on the side there, but ignoring that, this is the standard cover and I think it's gorgeous and is definitely my favourite cover of all the books that I've hauled so far this year. Prompt 13 is what books do you need to read by the end of this year? For me, most of these are series, because I'm trying to tackle the series that I've already started and I really want to finish them out. So I did have Wayward Children down, but since planning for this video I have completely got up to date, so that's great. Another book that I want to get to is The Dragon's Promise, which is the sequel to Six Crimson Cranes, just because that one's quite fresh in my head, so I want to read that one as soon as it comes out so I can finish the duology. Another series that I've talked about before in this video is the Six Tudor Queens series by Alison Weir. So far I am 4 books down and 2 to go, so hoping to finish that one out. And the last one, hopefully, this is more of a hopeful option because I do have quite a few books left, is the School for Good and Evil. So far I've read the first 2 books and I have 4 to go, but they do get quite chunky from here out, so we'll see. So those were all the prompts for the mid-year book Freakout tag. Let me know down below as ever if you have read any of these. Otherwise, yeah, I hope you're enjoying your reading so far. Let me know how you're doing so far this year, if you're on track with your reading, if you set goals. Let me know down below your favourite read of the year so far. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!